Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take interesting sources, things you might be curious about, and really pull out the key insights for you.
Yeah, sort of a shortcut to getting informed, but with, those interesting details you might otherwise miss.
Exactly. And today, we're diving into the power of imagination. We're looking specifically at Chapter 5, Imagination, the workshop of the mind, from a work that focuses on, well, achieving riches.
Right. The sources we have are excerpts, really digging into what imagination is and how you can actually use it.
Our mission, then, is to understand these different kinds of imagination the text talks about and how, practically speaking, you can apply them to get what you want, particularly in the context of wealth, but the ideas are broader, I think.
Definitely. And it feels really relevant now, doesn't it? With all the rapid change happening, the text mentions advancements from the last 50 years.
Like flight, radio, TV.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Analyzing the sun from afar, figuring out the brain might be like a broadcasting station,
Yeah.
even just how much faster we travel now.
It all started with someone imagining it.
It did. And the source makes this point that our only real limitation is, well, how we develop and use our imagination. We're apparently just scratching the surface.
So it introduces two main types, two forms of imagination to explore, synthetic and creative. Should we start with synthetic?
Let's do it. Synthetic imagination. It's essentially the ability to arrange old concepts, ideas, plans into new combinations.
Okay, so it's not making brand new stuff.
Not entirely new, no. It's working with what's already there, your experience, what you've learned, things you've observed. It's about recombination.
Like rearranging furniture in a room to make it feel totally different, even though it's the same furniture.
That's a good analogy.
Hmm.
The text says this is what most inventors use, actually. Unless they're, geniuses hitting a wall and needing something more.
Which is where creative imagination comes in, I guess. But for synthetic,
Yeah.
you, listening, can probably think of times you've done that, right? Mashing up ideas for a work project or maybe combining recipes.
Absolutely. It's a very practical, frequently used faculty.
Okay, so what about the other one? Creative imagination. That sounds bigger.
It does. The text describes it as the faculty where the human mind connects with what it calls infinite intelligence.
Infinite intelligence. Okay, what does that mean in practical terms? Is
Yeah.
it mystical?
Well, you could interpret it in different ways. Maybe think of it as tapping into a deeper level of consciousness, or the collective unconscious, perhaps. It's where the text says hunches and inspirations come from.
Ah, those aha moments.
Exactly. Those moments where a completely new idea seems to just land in your head. It
Mhm.
also mentions receiving thought vibrations from other minds.
Right, that bit. Is that like intuition or picking up on moods?
It could be interpreted that way. The text suggests a kind of resonance perhaps between minds focused intensely on similar things. But the key thing is, this creative faculty isn't just on demand.
Oh, how does it work then?
It seems to function automatically, but only under certain conditions, like when the conscious mind is vibrating at a really high level, often stimulated by a very strong desire.
So intense focus and passion can kind of open the door.
That seems to be the idea. And interestingly, it says this creative faculty gets sharper, more alert the more you use it, like a muscle.
That makes sense. You hear about great leaders or artists who just seem driven and have these amazing insights. The source connects their greatness directly to developing this creative imagination.
It does. And it emphasizes that both types, synthetic and creative, improve with practice. You have to exercise them.
Okay, so we have these two tools. How do they connect to actually achieving something, like the desire for wealth the book talks about?
Right. So desire starts as just a thought, an impulse. It's abstract, vague,
And pretty useless on its own.
until it's transformed into its physical counterpart, exactly. Imagination is the workshop where that transformation happens.
Which type of imagination is more important for that?
Often it's the synthetic imagination. That's the one you'll use most frequently to build the actual plan to turn that desire into money or whatever the goal is.
But sometimes you need more.
Sometimes, yes. The text acknowledges that for really big leaps or unique problems, you might need to call on the creative imagination.
What if you feel like your imagination is rusty? Haven't used it much.
That's okay. The text is quite reassuring on this.
Hmm.
It says the faculty might be weak from disuse, but it can definitely be revived and developed.
Just by trying.
Pretty much, by starting to use it. The advice is to focus initially on developing the synthetic imagination because it's so crucial for the practical step of creating plans.
Taking the desire and building a how-to.
Precisely. You need a plan or plans to transform desire into reality. And the text stresses this needs to be done through imagination, primarily synthetic. It points you to other parts of the book for the how-to of plan building.
And there's a really key first step mentioned.
Ah, yes. Reducing the desire in the plan to writing.
Why is that so important?
Because, according to the source, that's the first definite, concrete action. It takes it out of the purely mental realm and gives it a tangible form. It marks the start of the actual conversion process.
Making it real. I like that. It connects to something else the text brings up, doesn't it, about matter and energy.
It does, yeah. It gets quite philosophical, almost cosmic here. It reminds us that everything physical, the earth, us, everything started from tiny bits of matter organized over eons.
Okay. Basic physics or cosmology.
But then it presents this stupendous idea, as it calls it, that all material things actually began as an intangible form of energy.
Whoa. So solid stuff comes from non-stuff.
In essence, and here's the link, desire, being a thought impulse, is also presented as a form of energy.
Ah, I see where this is going.
Right, so when you form a desire, you're supposedly working with the same fundamental stuff that created the universe, energy.
So wanting something isn't just passive wishing. It's potentially tapping into creative universal forces.
That's the implication. The universe is matter and energy, combine them right, and you get, well, everything. So converting your desire energy into money, matter form, is framed as aligning with how nature itself works.
And the text is confident this can be done.
Very confident. Because it has been done. There are laws, it says, immutable laws you can learn and use. The secret isn't really secret. It's visible in nature.
Like the example of a tiny cell growing into a full human being.
Exactly. That's presented as a kind of miracle of transformation, similar to turning desire into its physical form. It advises not to worry if you don't grasp it all at once.
Yeah, it compares it to studying the mind takes time. Read it again, let it sink in.
Right. Understanding deepens. And to make it less abstract, it uses stories, like the enchanted kettle.
Ah, the Coca-Cola origin story, basically. The old doctor and the young drug clerk.
That's the one. The doctor needs cash, sells the clerk this old kettle, a paddle, and a secret formula for $500 the clerk's life savings.
Seems like a raw deal for the clerk at first glance.
Maybe. But the text emphasizes the real value wasn't the stuff, it was the idea the clerk bought.
And the magic, as the story puts it, happened later.
It did. When the new owner, Asa Kamler, added something the doctor didn't know about or didn't think to add. And the text pauses here to ask you, the listener.
What was that secret ingredient? Test your imagination.
Exactly. And of course, we know the answer now. That idea, born in that kettle, became Coca-Cola.
And the impact was just massive.
Staggering. The text lists it out. Huge sugar consumer, jobs, millions of bottles, cans, clerks, advertisers, boosting a whole city, reaching everywhere, funding a university.
It even mentions it kept people employed during the Depression.
Yeah, incredible resilience, plus all the, cultural associations it developed.
So the missing ingredient Asa Candler added was?
Imagination. He saw potential the doctor didn't. He took the basic idea and used his imagination, likely both synthetic and creative, to build it into something enormous.
And the text connects us back to the 13 steps mentioned elsewhere in the source material.
Yes, suggesting those principles were the means by which the idea achieved that global reach. It really drives home the point. Truly, thoughts are things.
And their scope of operation is the world itself. Powerful. With the second story.
It illustrates where there's a will, there's a way. It's about Frank W. Gonzalez.
Okay, tell us about him.
While he was still in college, he saw flaws in the education system. He didn't just complain. He developed a clear vision, a desire for a different kind of college focused on learning by doing.
A noble goal. But
he needed money, a lot of money. $1 million, which was a huge sum then, and that became his definite purpose, almost an obsession.
he didn't just vaguely hope for it.
No. He understood, the text says, that limitations are often self-imposed. He knew about definiteness of purpose backed by burning desire.
And then something shifted.
Yes. One specific Saturday afternoon, he made a decision. He resolved he would get that $1 million within a week. Didn't know how, but he decided it would happen.
That sounds bold. Maybe a bit crazy.
Perhaps. But the text says upon making that definite decision, he felt this strange feeling of assurance. Certainty replaced hope.
And he acted on it immediately.
He did. He announced he'd give a sermon the next day titled, "What I Would Do If I Had $1 Million."
Wow. Talk about putting yourself out there.
Absolutely. And writing the sermon was easy because the vision was already so clear in his mind. She'd been thinking about it for years. He slept soundly, prayed his message would reach the right person.
And then the unexpected happened.
He forgot his notes. But apparently his subconscious, totally saturated with the idea, just delivered the sermon for him. He spoke passionately about his dream institution.
And payoff.
After the sermon, a man approached him, Philip D. Armour, the industrialist. Impressed by the vision and the conviction, Armour said, "I believe you can do it. Come see me tomorrow. I'll give you the $1 million."
Just like that. Seriously.
Just like that. Within 36 hours of making that firm, definite decision and having his plan clear, the money was secured.
And that led to the Armour Institute of Technology.
Which became Illinois Tech, yes, a major institution.
That's incredible. The speed is astonishing. It highlights the difference between vague wishing and definite decision, definite planning.
Absolutely. The source puts it quite strongly. God seems to throw himself on the side of people who know exactly what they want if they are determined to get just that.
Strong words. And it claims this principle still works.
Yes, that the underlying law, those 13 elements mentioned in the full source, are still effective today. The common denominator between Candler and Gonzalez was this understanding. Ideas can be transmuted into cash.
But it requires more than just the idea.
It requires definite purpose and definite plans. It challenges the idea that just working hard and being honest is enough for great riches.
So fortunes aren't just luck.
Not according to this text. They come from definite demands, applying definite principles. An idea, it says, is a thought impulse that drives action through imagination.
It mentions selling ideas too, right?
Yes, that skilled salespeople sell ideas, not just things. Like a publisher who boosted sales just by changing a book's title that was selling a better idea of the book through imagination.
And the creators of valuable ideas can set their own price.
Often, yes. Think of the movie industry writers, directors with a vision, or even people who recognize and capitalize on others' ideas.
Like Carnegie surrounding himself with people who could execute his ideas.
Exactly. That combination of idea creator and idea seller or implementer is powerful.
What about luck? Or favorable breaks?
The text acknowledges breaks happen, they provide opportunities, but they're useless without sustained effort to capitalize on them. The author mentions meeting Carnegie as his big break.
But it took 25 years of work to follow through on the idea Carnegie planted.
Right. That break required determination, definiteness of purpose, burning desire, and persistent effort to turn into something real. The desire has to be strong enough to overcome the inevitable setbacks.
It's like the idea itself gains momentum.
Yes. Initially, you nurture the idea, but eventually, if it's strong enough, the idea starts to drive you.
And these powerful ideas can outlive their creators.
Definitely. The text uses Christianity as an ultimate example, a core idea shaping civilizations for millennia. Building something that impactful takes time and unwavering focus.
So the big takeaway on riches seems to be,
When they come in huge quantities, are never the result of hard work. Riches come, if they come at all, in response to definite demands, based upon the application of definite principles, and not by chance or luck.
and those final lines are pretty blunt.
They are!
Yeah.
Success requires no apologies. Failure permits no alibis. Leaves you thinking.
It certainly does. So recapping this deep dive, we've got the two types of imagination, synthetic for combining and creative for breakthroughs.
We saw desire as the starting point, the energy, but needing a plan crafted by imagination to become real. Writing it down is key.
And those stories, Coca-Cola and Gonzalez, really hammered home how a definite purpose, fueled by burning desire and imaginative planning, can achieve seemingly impossible things.
Absolutely. It's about understanding that ideas, backed by action, have real power.
Okay. For you listening, we know you like getting to the heart of things quickly and thoroughly. We hope this dive into imagination based on these sources gave you some solid insights.
Hopefully some aha moments, as the text might say, and a clear picture of how you might harness your own imaginative power.
So here's a final thought to take away, something to chew on. Think about a burning desire you have right now in your own life.
Yeah, really pinpoint one. And then ask yourself, how could you apply both synthetic and creative imagination to build a concrete plan to achieve it? What's the very first practical step you could take, maybe even today?